Thank you, Mimi. Alo minglaba kamya to everyone. I want to first thank you and all the organizers for pulling this event together and for the honor to say a few words at the top of this frankly emotional but important event to pay tribute to two friends and icons. It's wonderful also to see the list of those who will be speaking later, and just now, Min Ko Naing. I haven't seen him in some time. It's quite emotional to see him. I've been thinking about him, and also the others who have joined around the world, including in Myanmar. There are so many good friends and cherished colleagues from both the US and Myanmar whom I miss. I think I speak for many when I say I am still in disbelief that Ko Jimmy and Piozea Thaw are gone. It is too difficult still to process. It was 10 years ago, 2012, probably sometime in the late winter or early spring of that year, when I first met Ko Jimmy and Piozea Thaw, as well as Min Ko Naing and others who had just been released from political prison. I don't remember when I first knew all these important names. I'm sure Uboji had seared them into my brain over the years. But I do remember they were the ones that I would reference publicly from my earliest days as special US envoy. As we dealt with the Thein Sein regime at the time, we placed emphasis on their actions, not words, and release of political prisoners was one of the early essential actions. Ko Jimmy, Min Ko Naing, among others, became a marker by which we in part would judge them. I referenced them repeatedly in public and private, and they became so important to me that it was one of the highlights of my time as envoy and then ambassador when I finally met them in person at the Teak House behind the US Embassy in Yangon after their release in January 2012. I remember discussing the way ahead and asking them what they intended to do next. Every one of them, the 88 generation activists and those of the next generation, said to a person they were going to jump right back into civic activism, civic organization, public service, and campaigning for democracy, peace, and justice in their country. Like everyone who spoke with them at that time, I was in awe. They had just endured years of imprisonment, often torture, that stole their youth, and in so doing, the country's hopeful promise for years after 1988. And yet, their courage, resilience, determination, and patriotism were undimmed after all these years of hardship. I felt honored, inspired, and elevated to be around such true patriots. These were not a bunch of cowardly men who gave each other medals for killing their own people, parading around with uniforms and guns to feel secure and important. They were public servants in the best sense of that term. I had many subsequent opportunities to meet with Ko Jimmy over the ensuing years. I remember how he led civic efforts to gather, organize, and deliver emergency aid to those impacted by a historic national flood in 2015, engaged ethnic nationalities in pursuit of an elusive peace, and tried to build democracy from the bottom up, the only way it can happen. And in the process, I was honored to get to know Manilar. Her courage and sacrifice for her country were at least equal to Ko Jimmy's. Together, their years of partnership and love brought sunshine into the darkness of this world. It transcended prison walls, and I know will transcend time and space now. I want to send my love to her now if she is out there. I don't remember if Piozea Thaw was part of that first roundtable, but I do remember hearing early about the famous hip hop artist just out of prison who led an organization called Generation Wave as part of a new generation of young democracy activists. I think he cleaned up a little bit by the time I met him with Secretary Clinton on her first visit, and then with President Obama about a year later, again, almost exactly 10 years ago. I would catch up with him from time to time after he became a legislator and close aide to Dasu, traveling together, for instance, to the United States. Every time I saw or engaged him, I tried to connect that brave, loyal, disciplined young man with the iconic hip-hop artist. But Piozea Thaw, in fact, represented the tremendous promise of a new, vibrant Myanmar struggling to be born. We all prayed and worked for that vision, none more than Piozea Thaw himself. That struggle continues in the form of the millions of young people who have tasted freedom and will not go back into the darkness without a fight. There's lots of talk of martyrdom. Ko Jimmy and Pyo Tha did not set out to be martyrs. They had work to do and wanted to continue doing. They had families and futures and music to share, like thousands, if not millions of others who had their lives and futures cut short by a new generation of violent, corrupt, power-hungry, self-deluded guys with guns. We deeply mourn Ko Jimmy and Pyo Tha's loss, but we honor them, the two others murdered along with them, and the countless others who have perished and whose names we may never know, by keeping them in our minds and hearts forever, by thinking of them with joy and a smile, and by never giving up the fight wherever we are and in whatever capacity we can to support in tangible ways those on the front lines. In so doing, we must demonstrate the same unwavering commitment to justice, dignity, democracy, and freedom for the Myanmar people, to which they dedicated their lives. I want to again thank the organizers for putting this program together, for giving me an opportunity to say a few words in honor of two friends and patriots. Thank you. Jesu Timbade.